Great. Thanks, Monica. Hi, everybody, and welcome. Like Maria said, my name is BJ Lohr. I am a youth services coordinator, new in 2022 to the team, but certainly not new to working with CITYSPAN. So I'm going to start us off by sharing two things. One is how to add and assign user accounts in the new CITYSPAN database system. Hopefully at least somebody from your organization already received an email with some support on how to do this, but we'll walk through it live. And then the second thing that I'm going to walk through is how to add participants into the new system. It's not terribly different from how you have done this in the past, but there are some new features that we were excited to roll out. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump in. I'm going to share my screen. And let's get this started. So here we've got the welcome page, the main landing page for CITYSPAN. When it comes to adding in new user accounts, that information has been added into the CITYSPAN support guide. So anytime we add in a new section to the support guide, we're going to put a notice down here at the bottom of the main landing page with a link directly to that section. So you see this link to adding new user accounts. If I right click and select open in a new tab, how do I see this, you all? All right, I can't minimize this little thing here. Give me just a sec, sorry. We're just gonna have to do it like this. Okay, so if I click this, I clicked open in a new tab, the support guide came up in a new tab, and it takes me right to the section that says adding new user accounts. So I'm going to walk through this here, but if you need a refresher, it's in the CITYSPAN support guide, which you can find on the main landing page. So in another tab, I've already logged into CITYSPAN. I'm working in a sample agency that I have access to as a system admin. This is not, you all have your own agencies. You won't be able to see the sample agency, but we're just using this as a test case for us to walk through some of these functions. On the left of the menu, you've got your agency profile, your programs list. Your programs list is essentially your contracts list, your program models. So this sample agency has 3 enrichment year-round contracts in 3 different equity zones, and then they have a mentoring Far South contract as well. So you'll see your agency profile on the left, your agency programs, your agency accounts, and then my account. Agency accounts is where you're going to go to add new users. And I'm going to have to log back in, of course. Thank you for your patience. So agency accounts. This is where folks who have the most access at your organization are able to add new user accounts. User accounts are for folks who are going to be going into your CITYSPAN system and either managing the data that's in there or entering the data in there. So just because a staff member might be leading an after-school activity, that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to create a user account for them. You only need to create user accounts for staff members who are going to be logging in and either entering or managing data. So to create a new user account, you are, like I said, going to navigate to the agency accounts tab. You're going to give them a username. And so that could look like something, perhaps agency1 _ first name _ last name. And that's going to be their username that they use to log in. You're going to add in their email address. And you're going to say this is their first name, their last name. And you're going to assign them a role. And this is the part that's really important. There are 3 different types of roles. You have agency admins, and program users. Agency admins have the most access to an agency's information. Essentially, they have access to all pieces of information about an agency across all program models, across all contracts. They can see and edit everything about an agency in CITYSPAN. Program admins are kind of an in-between layer. They can see some information about the agency, and they can see and edit all information related to the specific program model or contract type that you assign them to. And program user has the least access in CITYSPAN. Generally speaking, they really can't see anything about the agency level information, and they only have access to see and edit certain parts of the database concerning only the program models that they've been assigned to. So I'll walk through what specifically program admins and program users can see. But the last step then here would just be to select their user role and click create a new user account. And for this particular person, I'm creating a program admin role. So the next step after creating an account is it's going to say, because this is a program admin, or if it were a program user, they're going to say, okay, you have 4 different contracts, 4 different program models in different equity zones. Which equity zones, which program models do you want to assign this particular staff to have access to? So once I click create new user, it's going to take a second, but it's here on this second page that I can say, okay, this particular user, I want them to have access to mentoring Far South, and I want them to have access to enrichment year-round Far South, but I don't want them to have access to year-round Southwest or year-round West. So you can pick what access level they have for these different program models, and they're going to be able to see and edit depending on what you select here. So I'm going to click select update, and that's all you have to do to create a new user account. As you can see, it gives you a little help text. An email with account information has been sent. So whatever email address you put in, they're going to get a welcome to CITYSPAN email, a link to the website, and information on how to log in for the first time. So now to talk about what each role can actually see in CITYSPAN. At the agency level, agency admins have access to view and edit the agency's profile and the agency accounts. The agency profile has things like your executive director's personal information and like email address, phone number. It also is a place to upload organizational documents like a 501c3, your audit documents, your board of directors roster. So agency admins are the only folks who have access to view and edit these things. Program admins can see the agency profile, but they cannot edit it. Program admins cannot view agency accounts. And then program users, they don't even see the agency profile, and they will not see agency accounts. When it comes to agency programs, the agency admins will see all programs across all equity zones and all contracts. And if I were logged in as that agent, the program admin that I just created, I would only see the 2 programs in this list that I was given access to. So I would only see mentoring Far South, and I would only see enrichment year-round Far South. I wouldn't see these middle 2. And once you log into a specific program model, you'll see some additional functionalities that are forthcoming for you. These are things, like Maria said, that you don't quite have access to yet, but you will starting next week. The participants and staff environment and the sites and activities environment. So program users and program admin both have access to participants, sites, and activities only for the program models that you've assigned them to. The difference between program admins and program users is that program admins also have access to the staff, to adding new staff at a particular program model. If you're just a program user, you will not have access to view or add staff or edit staff. So I'm going to pause there. That is an overview of user accounts, how to create them, what are the different types of user accounts that we have, and what access to each of the levels of the user accounts, what are they granted depending on the user role. I'll pause there, since I'm sharing my screen, I can't see the chat. I'm gonna kick it back to Monica real quick just to see if there are any questions about what I've presented so far.
No problem. I've been monitoring the chat diligently, and there was only one real question. We just want to be clear. This youth data CITYSPAN system is just for youth data. The compliance system is the same as the last, 3 years. And there'll be a training on that next week, and I will send out the invite if folks need a refresher. So this is just for attendance, your work plans in this database, and enrollment. So I just want to be clear, 2 separate systems, compliance is one, and this is the youth database.
Great. And I think I see somebody,
Yes.
Rebecca Medina has their hand up.
Yeah, good morning. I just had a quick question. In regards to, because I was just walking through the database as you were going and like trying to add a user, or I'm sorry, a program, let me see, what is it? A program user. It says that the username is already in use. So it's probably because this is a returning mentor from the previous years. Is there a way for us to transfer that over, or do we just need to make a new username for them since they've already been in the CITYSPAN system?
That's a good question. You might have that person try using their current username and login to log into the new database system. This isn't something that I've run into working with CITYSPAN yet. So the first thing I would say is have that person try to use their current login credentials to get into the new database. If they are unable to, and I suspect that they won't be able to, you might just need to modify the username that you're giving them, add a 1 at the end or capitalize, just tweak the way you're constructing that username.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, JB, there's another question. Is there a limit to how many admin can be added?
There's not a limit. You have full range to add as many agency admin as you want, as many program admin as you want, as many program users as you want. The only thing I would say though is just be careful with what level of access you're assigning folks, because the more you're giving folks agency admin level access, the more they're able to go into any number of program models and modify information or edit things like the agency profile where they can change the name of the executive director if they wanted to. So just add as many accounts as you need. Just be real careful about what access you're giving everybody.
Correct. Thank you, BJ. We're going to move it forward. If anyone has questions, please put in the chat, and if we don't get them now, we will send it out when we send out information and stuff after the session. Thank you.
Yeah. And actually, I'm going to, one last follow up here. We're landing on this work plan page, and that's the one thing that I forgot to mention. Agency admins and program admins can see the work plans. Program users do not have access to see or edit work plans. And not surprisingly, agency admins can see any work plan for any program model. Program admins can only see and modify work plans for the program models or the equity zones that you assign them access to. So I'll leave that there. Now we're going to transition into what it looks like to add participants. We are currently inside sample agency 1, and inside sample agency 1, we are at the enrichment year-round far south program model / contract. So my participants and staff modules have been activated, so I can show you this. Again, these are going to be available to you next week. But to add a participant, I'm just going to go to the participants and staff tab on the left menu. It will automatically take me to the list of participants in this particular program model / in this particular contract type. And if you wanted to navigate over, if you're a program admin or an agency admin and you wanted to go over and add a staff, you would do that just by clicking of the staff tab up at the top left. But if you click participants and staff, it defaults you to participants. And you can just, to add a new one, you're just going to click add plus at the top. So I'll go ahead and do that. And the first thing you're going to do is you are going to verify that this person doesn't already exist in the system. So I'm just going to add somebody in here. And the first thing, it's just searching for now. You're not actually adding anybody. You're just allowing the system to say, hey, does this person already exist in my system or not? If they don't, it'll tell you no matching records were found, and you can click to add a new person. If it finds somebody with the exact same name, the exact same spelling, and the same birth date, it's going to let you know, hey, it looks like this person's already in your system. So you don't need to create a new record. You can just go right to that person. But because this is a new person, it's telling me no records were found, and I can click here to add a new person. I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I'm going to, based on your work plans, in a work plan, you identified all of the sites that you're going to be operating at. And based on the sites that you put into your work plan, those are the sites that are going to populate in the sites and activities environment. And when you're enrolling a participant, you're going to say at the time of enrollment, which site is this particular person associated with? So you're going to pick one of the sites that you want them to be associated with. And then you're going to say, okay, who's going to enroll the participant? This is the piece that is the newest component to CITYSPAN for 2023 that didn't exist in the past. So just like in the past, you can still, as an agency, go in and enroll the young person yourself. If you wanted to do it the old-fashioned way, you're just going to click agency and click add and move through the process of all of those registration forms and the consent forms. The new feature that we're really excited to roll out is that if the young person, based on their date of birth that you entered, is 18 or over, they can enroll themselves. And if they're 17 or younger, the parent can register them on the participant's behalf. Meaning, what happens is we have a youth enrollment portal, and let's say I click parent or guardian here. Because this person is under 18, it's going to ask me to put in a first name, a last name, and some contact information, and the preferred method of communication. Based on what preferred method of communication you pick, once you click add, that's going to send this person, this contact person, an invitation. They're going to get their own login and password. They can log into the youth enrollment portal and fill out all the registration forms themselves. So you as an agency don't have to take the time to go in and add in all the demographic information, the age information, the contact information like address. You can punt this off to your participants if they're over 18, or to their parents or their guardians if they're 17 or under, and they can do all of this for you as an agency. So clicking participant or parent, adding in that parent's contact information and selecting their preferred communication method. Then you click add. It's going to ship this off to them to fill out for themselves. And you'll be able to see whether or not they've filled out this information, whether it's been submitted, whether they've signed the consents or not. I'm going to go through and walk through it like if you would to do it as you've done it in the past as an agency.
Well, I'm sorry. Can we just one really important question? I know Maria just started answering it. One of the questions that we just need to clear up: will CITYSPAN transfer old participants into this new database?
No, they will not. No.
So this is a fresh new system. All youth participants need to be enrolled one way or the other, either by the agency, parent, or themselves.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
And
it's
then,
a new city. It's a new system. We're starting fresh. We want the data to be as clean as possible. So yeah. Okay. Because this person is under 18, if I were to select participant, it would ask me to put in this participant's contact information, but if I click add, it's not going to let me send them an invitation to fill it out themselves. If they're under 18, this has to be filled out by the parent or guardian. It's only if they're 18 or over that you would be able to actually send the invitation to the participant themselves. So I'm going to click agency here, and then I click add, and it's going to take me to the registration page. And then after that, I can also navigate over to the consents and signature page. So you see, I am in Martha Wash's record that we just created. Up at the top, I see registration and consents and signature. I see portal and I see enrollment. We're going to focus on these three in the middle: registration, consents and signature, and portal. Because I'm an agency and I'm filling this out, then I would just go through all of this registration, these registration questions, the demographic information. I would select what you need, all the appropriate information, and certainly fill in all the required fields. The education workflow is dynamic. So based on what their current educational status is, it might ask some follow-up questions. Here, I'm going to select student in high school or below, and it's going to populate a list of schools that I can choose from, their current grade. I've got to put in their student ID number. I'll take a second. Yolanda, I see your hand up. So if you've got a question, I'm happy to take that real quick. I don't hear you. I'm going to go ahead and keep moving forward, but if you, Yolanda, if you do have a question, feel free to put it into the chat box. So keep going through the demographic information of the young person, the education information, address. You have to add in at least one emergency contact, and at least one emergency contact has to be the parent or legal guardian if the person's under 18. No surprise there. These are all the questions that go in to the registration form. They're very much similar to the same questions that were in the registration form in past years. What's new is that now you have a second page that's called consent and signature. I can navigate to it by either clicking consents and signature up top, or I can click next. And these are the consents that every parent or young person over the age of 18 needs to fill out before enrolling in the program. As a consent to participate, a consent to share data, and a media consent. In order to be a part of the program, they need to consent to participate. So this is not a yes or no question. In order to participate in the program, they also need to be willing to have your agency, share their demographic and participation data with us. So those, in order to be enrolled in CITYSPAN, are non-negotiables. They have to select yes, but media consent is optional. And so they have the option for yes or no here. Now, because I chose agency as the person who's going to enroll the young person, and it's not the parent or the adult young person filling this out for themselves, we are requiring that agencies upload a copy of the intake form for each youth that's registered, for each youth that's being entered into the system. We need you to upload a copy of their signed intake form. So you've got the upload button here. You would just go ahead and, choose the correct file, and upload the form there. Last but not least, you as the agency sign down here. There's a dynamic mouse pad signature, just saying that all the information in here is correct, and it is what has been reflected in the intake form that the parent or young person has filled out and given to you. Once all of that is done, the registration form is complete, the consents and signature form is complete. Go ahead and click submit, and that person is eligible to be added to your activities and enrolled in different activities and have their attendance taken. If any part of this registration or consents and signature is not fully completed, this young person will not be able to be added to activities. So the system will prohibit it. Another quick follow-up that I want to share here. If I am let me back up. Earlier on, I said, okay, who's going to enroll this young person in the system? And I selected agency. If later on I decided, oh, you know what, I actually want the parent or guardian to do this instead of me doing it as the agency, you can come over to this portal environment, the tab up at the top that says portal, and it's going to kind of remind you of, oh, who did we say? We said agency. There will be an edit button here for you to actually change this and say, nope, you know what, the agency's not going to do it anymore. It's going to be the parent or guardian. Once you select that, it's going to ask you for the contact information for who you want the invitation to, the enrollment invitation to be sent to. And it's going to have a button that says, send the invitation. So even if you choose that the agency is going to do it ahead of time, if you decide later that you want the parent to do it, you can come into this portal tab and change that and have the invitation sent off to the parent to fill it out. And the opposite is true too. So if you send out the invitation for the parent to do the enrollment at first, but ultimately you decide, you know what, this parent is unresponsive and I can get them to fill out the intake form in person, the next time I see them, and you would rather do it as an agency, you can come to this portal tab, and instead of choosing parent or guardian, you can select edit and change that to agency, and then that will allow you as the agency to fill out the registration and the consents and signature form. But again, if you're doing it as an agency, you have to upload that intake form. And the intake form has changed a little bit to encompass these consents and signature language. So if you have old intake forms, we're gonna distribute the new ones following this webinar, so you'll have access to those. But these new consents are extremely important to make sure that we're doing our due diligence here at DFSS, and to make sure that agencies are doing their due diligence as well, and that we're all doing what we should to protect young folks' data and to ensure that to be doing everything that we should. I'll leave it at that. So I'm going to pause there, see what questions there are. I've just presented a lot of information, so I'm also going to look to my colleagues, John and Maria, and or Monica, to see if there's anything else about adding participants or user accounts that I should be going over. And or, Monica, if there's questions in the chat that need to be addressed, that's fine too.
Okay, can you just review, BJ, a lot of discussion and question, a lot of great questions about the intake form, about the old intake form, the new intake form, and maybe John or Maria wants to discuss.
Sure. So I don't know if I'm showing lots of different files, but I don't know if you can see my screen currently. This is what the new intake form looks like. At surface value, it looks very similar to the ones that you all have used in the past.
We can't see it, BJ.
Nope, you can't see it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop share, and I'm going to reshare. Thank you for letting me know. So this is what the current intake form looks like. Like I said, at face value, it looks very similar to what we've been using in the past, and but I will point out there are some key differences. The most important being that this consent language in the bottom right has been updated, and this is a much more robust set of consents that we're asking from parents. We want to make sure that they understand that the data that you are collecting in CITYSPAN as an agency is being shared with us at DFSS, and that we might use that data for understanding trends in the programs that we're offering, or to create suggestions for how we might do our jobs better at DFSS based off of aggregate data across lots of delegate agencies. The other piece that's really important is that we're capturing permission for their photographs or videos to be shared with DFSS. We want to make sure sometimes we might ask you all to share pictures of your programs with us. And, we've got our communications team down here that loves spreading the good word about what our agencies are doing. We just need to make sure on our end that we're only sharing or we're only receiving pictures from young folks whose families have given consent for DFSS to receive those images and photos. So this consent piece is the really important piece that's been updated since last year. There are some other smaller pieces that have been updated as well. But this is the intake form that we're looking for agencies to fill out and to upload into the database if the agency is the one filling out the registration forms.
Just a couple of things, BJ, before we move on to John. We have quite a few additional points to make and to show you. I just wanted to make sure that everyone was clear that the system that we're introducing to you is for the enrichment year-round, enrichment school year, CHA year-round, and mentoring delegates. Some of you work across our division with other programs. Those are not available in the same system. So the way that you've been logging into those, you should continue to log into those. In terms of the intake forms, we will be sending the new updated intake form after today's call to everyone so that you have access to it. We understand that many of you are working with families that are returning and the youth that are the same, but like BJ said earlier, we are asking that every youth be re-entered into the system so that we have an accurate representation of the young people that are being served starting in 2023. All of you entered new contracts in 2023, so that is a contractual requirement. And so we will be providing you with grace, knowing that you have to re-enter all of the young people. So you will have a little bit of an extended deadline. Many of you have been working with the 15th of the following month. So we will be working with you all on that and sharing that information. And we will be sharing all of the responses to the great questions that are coming into the chat after the call as well. So we understand that it's potentially a lot of work for some of you all, and we hear you, but we're really excited that this new system will be able to capture a lot of great information and clean data, and we'll be able to share that with you now that we have a data evaluation and capacity building team. We're really excited about all of the stuff that we can present to you all. So just wanted to interject those few points. We will try to continue answering questions through the chat, but again, we will follow up with you all. So I'm going to hand it over to John, who's going to talk us through some additional features.
Thanks, Maria. Hello, everyone. It's good to see you all. I'm sharing my screen. Okay, so I'm going to be walking us through adding activities, enrolling youth, and taking attendance. And once again, I'm in our sample agency. It's an enrichment agency. And this is the list of sites for this agency. There are 2 program sites. And these sites, I want to point out, these are sites that were entered from the work plan. If agency realizes that they need to add additional sites, we hope not, especially at this early stage in launching a program, that would require a revision to the work plan. And we don't want to do that too often. I also want to point out this hierarchy is important. So activities are based in program sites. If you have an activity that takes place at multiple sites, you'd actually need to create an activity, that same activity at each of those sites where it's going to be based. So I'm going to click into this first site here, the STEM Center in Beverly. And I want to point out at the top, right now you see only 2 options, group activities and individual activities. You can search for activities. If there happens to be a long list of things, you can type that in here. I want to say that there are going to be a few other options that will be added to this eventually, events, and there's going to be a service connection module as well. That's not a requirement for enrichment, and for mentoring, there's only a very limited requirement that we're interested in knowing the percentage of youth that are connected to services, but that module will help us gather some data about that. And hopefully it could be a convenient place for you to collect and input that data as well. So let's see. I guess lastly, I just want to point out when you do have events don't count toward your program dosage. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and add a group activity. Click add, and what I'm going to add here is a high school coding club. And this next set of fields is program eligibility requirements. This is just the age group that the program is intended for. So it is required to enter at least one age group. However, the system is not limiting the participants, those who are enrolled in one of these activities, to these age groups. We know that attendance and participation might vary a little bit, but this is just how the activity is set up. I guess I also want to point out that the options that you'll see here are specific to the particular program. So you're going to see different age groups for mentoring. You might see even some different questions or additional fields for mentoring program. So right now, again, this is just an enrichment program. You'll need to select at least one target population group that the program is intended for, and even if it's just all youth. But for example, for mentoring, you might have a mentoring program that's intended just for pregnant and parenting teens, and you can suggest that you can identify that as well. In this instance, I'm just going to say it's for all youth. And your target enrollment is the number of youth that you anticipate to be enrolled in the program. So I'm just going to select 15. If you go back to the list of sites, it will say, those are carried over from the work plan. It will also say the number of slots that were you've suggested in the work plan that you're going to allocate to that site. So maybe 15 of the 30 participants are going to be enrolled in this activity. And for enrichment, the primary program specialty area is the STEM field. Let's save and proceed. Okay, so this is a summary of the activity so far. The next section is to add a staff, at least one staff member associated with it. And just to note, if you are trying to click on this drop down and you don't see the staff person that you intend to lead this or help volunteer with this activity, you want to go to the participants and staff tab over here and add them into your list of participants. So I happen to be I'm going to volunteer to support this high school coding club. One other just note about the participants and staff. When you add participants, add staff to your programs, there is an option, checkbox, has the staff person been certified to work with youth? And what we're implying with there is, have they completed all of the HR compliance requirements, their background check or the sex offender registry clearance? If you click no, then that staff person cannot be assigned to an activity. We'll cover more of those HR compliance requirements in the compliance database training that will actually be scheduled next week. Just get an email about that very shortly. So for now, John Weber has passed his background check requirements. He's going to be a volunteer in the program. If you click add, it's going to add an additional staff member. You can just delete that right there, but I'm going to save and return. And then you create a schedule for the activity. I'm going to add dates, single date or multiple dates. I'm going to say we're starting on the 13th, and this is going to be a 2-week program. So the 13th to the 24th, Monday through Friday. And I know this is probably not the structure for most of your programs, but I'm going to say 8 to 10 a.m. just because it's fast to enter. I'm going to add all those dates and times. Okay, so now it's showing me a list of the dates and the times, the schedule. You can edit those if you need to change that, or add dates or delete dates if you need to. So here's a summary of this activity. And you can see the schedule just clicking on that tab there. And now I'm going to move on to enrollment. So there are no persons currently enrolled in the program. I'm going to click enroll, and what's going to show, first of all, are there, if you were searching for a particular student, then you can do it that way. You can also click show all. Some of your programs have many, many, many young people, and so we wanted to not overwhelm you or your staff in choosing from a very long list. If you searching for somebody in particular. Beyonce Knowles happens to be interested in this high school coding club. You'll notice that this Beyonce is 13 years old and she does have her consent and signature on file. That's crucial. If she did not have her consent form and signature on file, the enrollment would be complete and she could not be enrolled in this activity. For now, go ahead and enroll her. And you have a chance to choose which day she's starting. So she is going to start on the 13th. And that's great. So that enrollment was successful. If you wanted to see the full list of young people that are enrolled in the program, you can click back to that enrollment list. The next step, once you're moving on to actually implementing your program, is monitoring attendance. And if you're entering your attendance data daily, you can click on each of those dates. Just two simple options, present or absent. If you had a long list of participants and you wanted to, you knew that they were all there for that particular activity, you can click all present or all absent. So there's some shortcuts there. If you are, and you can scroll through the dates using these arrow buttons at the top. You can move forward to the next date. So if you're entering a week's attendance data at one time, you can do that. Click back and save, and may not allow me to add her attendance data because the activity hasn't occurred yet. It's in the future. Oh, it did. Okay. So we're seeing into the future. She's going to show up for this activity on Monday. You have a few other options here. This tab that shows reports. This is one convenient way to print out single day attendance sheets. I believe the options for reports are similar to, if not identical to, what is in the PATH system. So, a single day attendance sheet, you could print, you have to choose the day or range of dates and a couple other formatting options. I do want to say that we've talked about the requirement to capture participant signatures on the attendance sheet. Actually, that's not required anymore. You do not need to keep the paper copy of the attendance sheet. All of that attendance data needs to be entered into the system. But hopefully that is a small efficiency and helps tidy up the kind of documentation that you need to keep. I just want to point out briefly that those were group activities. There's another set of activities, individual activities. So those are one-on-ones. And it's a similar type of workflow. So you add the name, description, ages, target population groups, and then there's some other questions about the type of activity. For the sake of time, I'm not going to go into that now, but just want to point out that you have the option to do that. I want to pause for just a moment, and I've not been following the chat very well as I've been sharing, but take stock of any questions that have been popping up and other things that may not be clear. So I'm going to defer to my colleagues just for a moment to see if there are other items that we need to discuss.
Yeah, there's a couple questions, good questions that came across. This is from Marcus. Can a student be enrolled in multiple programs at multiple sites? Example, if you have a student who is already in the system because they're with another agency and enrolled with them, would I need to have the student go through the enrollment process on the portal again for my agency?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the way that the system is set up, the universe of participants in all of the DFSS funded programs, it's obviously larger than the single agency, but the participants that you can see in your programs are only those that are enrolled directly by your agency. So you cannot see if Beyonce Knowles is enrolled in a program by After School Matters or another agency. And so it is possible that, multiple agencies may be creating records for the same participant. However, there's only one record for Beyonce Knowles within your agency.
Mm-hmm.
And I also want to point out this list of participants, it's going to default to show you the list of participants that are created in your particular program, your particular contract. at the equity zone level. But you can search for and see participants that may have been created in other equity zones or other contracts. Now, it may be unlikely or infrequent that a young person's participating, on the west side and on the north central equity zone, but the system does allow for that. Any other questions?
Sure, John. Kim Cole also asked, what about field trips?
Great question. Yeah. And so field trips, actually, BJ, you can probably answer that. Those are group activities, like a single time activity. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So specifically for field trips, you would enter that in like a group activity. But when you go to create the schedule, you're not going to add in multiple dates. You're just going to add in that single date. One of the things that John was showing in the group activities when you add a new group activity is this page right here that's on the screen now. We're in the process of having CITYSPAN add a question that's going to say, is this a field trip? Yes or no? And if it is, the only additional question you'll have to answer is like, where are you taking them? And so once you create the activity, the next step is to add the schedule. You would just add a single date for the date of that field trip. So hope that answers your question, Kim.
That's great. Folks, I'm noticing we've got about 3 minutes left. Not sure we have time maybe to answer 1 or 2 more questions. I do want to respect everybody's time, have a few last things to share before we wrap up our time. First of all, I want to thank everybody for being here, for lots of great questions. So we'll look forward to responding to anything we haven't been able to cover in detail. Just want to reemphasize, we'll have the video from today's session and expanded documentation available from the homepage that you can find links to down here in the notices section. So this CITYSPAN support guide is going to be a great resource for everybody. I want to thank the team who's been working with our CITYSPAN developers over the last few months to build out the new system. It's been an enormous amount of work. I have to say, I think our team is about as excited as you can be to launch a new program database. We hope that there's some improvements and efficiencies for you. At the very least, we have a database that looks like it's in the 21st century. We'll look forward to working with you and supporting you all as you get to know the database. And as you encounter any challenges or questions, you know that you can reach out to your service coordinators with questions that you might have. I actually going to bring up a slide that has contact information for them. Just a moment. I have to stop sharing this screen. Share. Okay, so this is a list of our amazing youth services division staff, emails and phone numbers for them. And if there are technical issues that you don't have an answer to, the CITYSPAN help desk is a great support as well. I want to remind everybody that I mentioned earlier, we will have a compliance database training session held next week. So be on the lookout for an invitation to that. That system has not changed, but it is obviously a crucial part of making sure that the young people participating in the programs are safe and provide a safe environment for them. Lastly, I know that Maria and Monica are working on planning an in-person welcome event. This is the first time we've been able to do that in a number of years now. So that's going to be a mid-March event. Just want to emphasize, we're thrilled to have the opportunity to be in person with our agencies and staff once again. Because our capacity is limited, there is a 2-person per program max. So appreciate your understanding about that. And then lastly, I just want to defer to anybody else on the DFSS side for either answering questions that I'm overlooking or final parting words.
Just a quick thing, John, a reminder, we will be sending the recording. We will be following up with all the questions that were asked in the chat and those that may have gone unanswered. And we will be sending follow-up information. I'm actually going to throw in a survey link to get your feedback for today's training. So please feel free to complete that, and we'll also add that to the follow-up as well. So I think we can hang around for a little bit if folks have questions. But I'll pass it back to you.
There was one question. I'm gonna just butt in here, and I don't know if it was stated. When is our target date to have youth enrolled in the new system?
We will send that as part of the follow-up. We
Okay.
want to make sure that if you all get access by Tuesday, that we give everyone enough time. So I think that'll be clear in our follow-up once we have a very clear date for the launch for everyone. And the CITYSPAN points of contact will be made aware, but obviously you can always check in your system if you already have access, if you see the participants and activities tab on your system.
All right, if no other questions or comments, just want to say a last thank you to everyone for being here, for my colleagues for helping us support the rollout and the build for this new database. And we'll look forward to being in touch really soon and seeing you all in person, if not before, at that welcome event in March. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Have a good
Thank
day.
you all. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you. Have a good day.
It's so hard just holding on and even picking up my phone. It's hard enough to be, hard enough to stay, hard enough.